You all know me as a PvZ person by now, and I can't blame you for that. But what most of you don't know is that I'm a massive fanboy for tower defense games. I've played a ton of them throughout my gaming career. Kingdom Rush, Defense of the Wilds, Bloons Tower Defense, and more. However, there is one that stands out to me as the best conventional tower defense game. Q in Castle TD. Castle TD, or Castle Tower Defense, was released in January of 2013, which was around 18 months after the notorious Kingdom Rush release. The reason I mention Kingdom Rush is because it takes some inspiration from that game. Preset tower spaces on the map, almost unique environments, 4 main tower types of 2 upgraded variants, abilities, and purchasable items to help you in a pinch. Now, what makes this game different from Kingdom Rush is the large variety there is. Right off the bat, you're able to choose what warrior class you'd like for your save file, which you have 3 of, by the way. There are a ton of unique upgrades throughout 3 separate tabs. Skills, which focus on your 3 general spells. Lives, and assistance with warrior upgrades. Towers, which speaks for itself, and warrior, which too speaks for itself. There's also a props tab that unlocks after you beat 4-3 on normal mode, which I will cover later on in the review. One thing this game lacks in is maps. There's only 15 maps, with one of them being a different version of a previous map, but thankfully you'll play on each map a total of 6 times throughout the 2 difficulties. Speaking of, there are 4 game modes: normal campaign, hard campaign, mission, and endless, the latter 3 unlocked after you beat 15-3 on normal mode. The campaigns are rather self-explanatory. The missions are unique challenges. You have to pay to play missions 6 through 15, unfortunately. And Endless somewhat reflects the gimmicks of the missions. There is also an arena mode, but chances are you'll never be playing that one because it's online, and the only way one would be playing this game on modern devices is through an APK, which disables any and all online interactions. However, if you have a really old device like I do, you won't have to worry about no silly APK. The difficulty spikes comes very early, coming as early as the 2nd map, depending on how you purchase upgrades, so you'll usually be grinding at least once. Sadly, the game does get boring at times, but that's to be expected during the later levels. There's several enemies you'll encounter in the game. 23 of them, if you include the 6 bosses. They are fairly unique, some of them doing more than others. Some of them can be dangerous if not dealt with quickly. Some of your biggest threats throughout the game include, but are not limited to, Boar, Goblin, Orc Warrior, Devil Observer, White Bear, Devil Bat, Swamp Monster, and Mini Deathbringer. I won't be going over what each enemy does in this video, but I will cover different aspects of the game, including enemies, in future videos if this video gets to 10 likes. So make sure you hit that like button. There are a total of 12 towers in the game, 8 of them being upgrades. You start off with the Bunker, a quick and cheap tower that the game describes to be effective against flying units. This tower can be upgraded to one of 2 stages, the Bunker of Vipers and the Bunker of Gunners. The Bunker of Vipers attacks with poisonous arrows, which deal constant damage for a short time. The Bunker of Gunners attacks with bullets and has great range. Its main selling point is the ability to do critical hits, the chance of which being both unknown from the lack of information on the internet and my inability to check the files. This tower is really good in the early game, and a keeper when you get them to the Bunker of Gunners, which is the superior tower given its massive damage output. Next up are the labs, which deal weak poison damage and also slows down enemies for a short time. It upgrades to either the Prime Lab or the Avengers Lab. The Prime Lab can attack up to 2 targets at once, and can go to 4 at once with further upgrades, and the Avengers Lab does greater damage to single targets. The effectiveness of the labs aren't very apparent, but it's worth having as a staller of sorts. The forts are next, and these deal the greatest single target damage in the game. They upgrade to either the Prime Fort or the Laser. The Prime Fort, similar to the Prime Lab, can attack up to 2 to 4 enemies at once, while the Laser deals massive damage to single targets. The fort is generally your best bet for dealing with the later waves, especially when the bosses arrive, and it will definitely help during the earlier stages. Lastly is the cannon, which is the only AoE tower in the game. dealing large damage over a small area. It upgrades to either the super cannon or the missile launcher. The super cannon has a chance to launch a flaming bomb that could scorch the earth for a short time. The missile launcher has the largest range in the game. However, what it has in range, it lacks in attack rate, being the slowest tower in the game. The cannons are really useful for activating enemies' abilities, which ensures that they won't sneak completely past your defenses. Right when you start your file, you're given 3 options for warrior classes: Wizard, Paladin, and Barbarian. Starting with the worst of the 3, the Paladin is the strongest of the warriors, who's skilled to heal themselves occasionally, which barely helps earlier on compared to the other classes. The Barbarian has a skill that allows it to deal extra damage, and the Wizard deals less damage, but has a ranged attack that can target units and can stun. You have 3 spells at your disposal, each causing mana, a battle currency that charges over time at a set rate which you can upgrade. The first of which is the summon spell, which is how you summon your warriors. During normal mode, you'll only be able to summon 2 at a time, but once you beat it, you'll be able to summon 3 at once. The warriors will fight nearby enemies until they either die or the time limit runs out. Time limit can be upgraded. Next up is Freeze, the name should speak for itself. Lastly is the Fire Rain spell, which summons a meteor that deals large AoE damage. You can access the props during your journey, which are more of emergency options than anything, because they aren't required for anything. First is the Fog of Death, which casts a heavy lab effect on the entire board for a short time. Next is Meteor Rain, which casts a ton of fire rains across the map. Then we have the Elite Army, which summons a bunch of your warriors onto the field. Lastly is Extralyze, which is self-explanatory. I will now show off a few waves of gameplay. Enjoy. This game has a lot to offer, even if it's similar to other tower defense games. Gameplay might get boring at times, but that's somewhat expected for a casual tower defense game. If you wish to download this game on your modern device, check out the link in the description below to download an APK for the game. Otherwise, just go to your old device's app store and download it from there. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next time. Bye bye!